Now, to put the perspective of where these two fighters were, Micky Ward had been really basically a journeyman, and frankly, at times not even a very exciting journeyman. He had labored at times in a couple of fights where it looked like he was not doing anything. But he finally did get an opportunity to fight on HBO, and he ended up it was a technical decision loss because of I guess it was a headbutt against Jesse James Leija. But it was a good enough performance, even though he was a loser in the fight, where when they were looking for a fight for Arturo Gatti, that seemed to be like a good matchup, that it would be a good fight for the fans, but Gatti would be favored, which is exactly what happened. Now, Gatti was sort of like in the second coming of his career. When he fought Oscar De La Hoya at the beginning of 2001, this was the golden parachute fight. This is, we're going to get Gatti. His biggest purse, I want to say, was like $1.8 million. He's going to be a speed bump for Oscar De La Hoya, who's coming back, in the post loss to Shane Mosley. And he's going to run De La Hoya over, but it's a big name, and we're going to give him the chance to retire with a big payday. And he did. He got absolutely, he got brutalized by Oscar, even though he put up a hell of a fight. They brought him back, 10 months later. I was at this fight. I was at the De La Hoya fight also. They brought him back against the former junior welterweight champion, Teran Millet. And Gatti is now working with Buddy McGirt, who had him employing a little bit more boxing, as much as you could convince a great brawler like him to do that. Mm-hmm. And he beat the shit out of Teran Millet. He looked really good in that fight. He knocked him out in the 4th round. And it's like Gotti's got a new trainer. He's got a new lease on life. He's got a better attitude. He's got a more refined style. And maybe he can have a second, chance to become champion again and to do something. So for the next fight, after the Millet fight, where he looked really good, they bring him in this fight against Micky Ward. And what happens? After like round 4, like we talked about, it becomes a fucking raging inferno. And, Gatti gets penalized for a low blow in the 4th round. They're battering the living shit out of each other. And then, of course, comes the famous 9th round, which is incredible. Round
Madness.
Of the year.
Madness.
And Micky Ward, who was known for the massive body punching attack and the tremendous left hook to the body, he drops Gatti with the left hook to the body. The announcers think the fight's over. I think the fight's over. Pretty much everybody thinks the fight's over. And if you know Gatti, it's right when you think he's out that he rises from the dead, similar to like what Tyson Fury did against Deontay Wilder. Somehow Gatti survives this absolute crisis. He gets to his feet. The fight continues, and they battle like to the death practically. And Micky Ward winds up winning a majority decision. It's 94-93. 95-93 in favor of Micky Ward. It's 94-94, and a draw. And it was such a great fight. It was so close. Gatti, the big favorite, loses. So it leads to the second fight, which of course evens the series, and leads to the third fight, which is why we ended up with the trilogy. But it doesn't happen. If Gatti ends up winning this fight, even as great as it was, there probably isn't going to be a second fight. So Micky, by just that close margin, he gets the claw. And it's a classic, and it leads to one of the great trilogies of all time. But the first fight was so fucking special. It was at Mohegan Sun. It wasn't like a huge crowd. That's a pretty good sized arena. They might have had 5,000 at the arena for that fight.
But hey, this is why this sport is different, because there are obviously moments in time where it's just spectacular. It's a lightning bolt. It's a brawl that nobody really saw coming. And it led to a tremendous trilogy. There's no doubt.
For what it's worth, Larry Merchant and Emmanuel Stewart, who were doing the broadcast for HBO, both had Arturo winning closely. Harold Letterman, who was, of course, the late, great unofficial scorer, who was literally scoring round by round, he scored the fight 94-94. So that tells you if the two announcers, and Emmanuel and Larry did not pull point. They're not favoring a guy. They just tell you like it is. Right. So they both had Gatti by a smidge, and Harold had an even fight. And that was one of the reasons why I wound up as doing a rematch. But the accolades that this fight received, it was the BWAA Fight of the Year for 2002. It was the Ring Magazine Fight of the Year. The 9th round, pretty much everybody picked as the round of the year. This was my first year at USA Today. I had it as the round of the year.
This one has aged, and as you mentioned, it leads to the rematch. It leads to the third fight. You can't say enough about that Gatti-Ward I.
One of the biggest things about Gatti-Ward I, and why it is so beloved, and why so many people have such great recollections and memories of the fight, and this should not be overstated. And frankly, in boxing today, we don't have this in a lot of the fights that we see that are great. The commentating was so spectacular. Like the sheer joy of Emmanuel Stewart, thinking like this should be
Yes.
the round of the century, the round 9. Like Emmanuel just had that exuberance about boxing that
Mm-hmm.
you almost thought like he forgot he's actually a commentator and he's just sitting with his friends in the bar in his living room or by himself shouting at
I
the
know
TV.
what you're saying is it captivated even the guys that are supposed to be neutral down the middle professionals, and they almost become fans on the air for the action, not fans for a
Right,
fighter.
right,
They are
right.
caught up in it. That's how good it was. That's what you
Jim
mean.
Lampley saying, "We told you we might have a fight of the year. We didn't tell you we might have the fight of the century." There's like 1,000 moments in that fight that were legendary calls.
Yep.
Where they think that the fight's over with the knockdown in the 9th round, and Frank Cappuccino, who was the referee, uh, lets it go. And I remember him saying, no, 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 fight ain't over, fight ain't over. I mean, it's just so many moments
Yeah.
in that broadcast and in that fight that are so ultra memorable, but the commentating was so crisp and so outstanding that just made what we remember. And it's easily accessible. You can watch the full broadcast on YouTube anytime you want. It is a truly special fight. And I'm just disappointed I was not ringside for it, but at least I got to be ringside for number 2 and number 3.
You're doing it justice, though, right here as we relive it. Again, Gatti-Ward battled in May of 2002 for the first of their 3 epic fights.
And by the way, the other thing about this, they went to the hospital in the same ambulance together after the fight
What a footnote. What a footnote.
because they wanted to.
Kind of like right out of Rocky and Apollo.
And they became best friends eventually,
It,
literally.
it's amazing. Amazing. Love it for Gatti-Ward I.